Wilberforce
had been prevented by the ship's crew, who were instantly alarmed. Those of us who were the most active when the motor put down on the decks again. There was such a noise, confusion amongst the people of the ship as I never heard before, to stop her and to get the boat out to go after the slaves. Two of the wretches drowned, however, but they got the other, and afterwards flogged them most severely for thus fulfilling death to slavery. During my passage, I first observed the use of the quadrant. I had with astonishment seen a man thus make observations with it. I could not think what this could mean. At last, one of them, taking notice of my supplies and willing to increase it, as well as to gratify my curiosity, one day made me look through it. The clouds appeared as land, and disappeared as they passed along. This heightened my wonder, and I was now persuaded more than ever before that I was in another world, and that everything about me was filled with magic. At last we came in sight of the island of Barbados, at which the whites on board gave a great shout and made many signs of joy to us. Many merchants and planters now came on board. They put us in separate parcels and examined us attentively. They made us jump and pointed towards the island, signifying that we were to go there. We thought by this that we should be eaten by these ugly men as they appeared to us. So soon thereafter, we were put back down on the decks again. And there was much blood and trembling amongst us. Nothing but bitter cries to be heard throughout the night from these apprehensions. Insomuch that at last the whites got some old slaves from the island to pacify us. They told us we were not to be eaten, but to go to work, and to go to the land where we should see many of our own country people. And sure enough, as soon as we were landed, there came to us Africans of all languages. We were immediately conducted into the merchant's yard, where we were all pent up together like so many sheep in a fold. As everything I saw was new to me, everything filled me with surprise. I was astonished on seeing people on horseback. I could not think what this could mean. And indeed, I thought that these people were full of nothing but magical arts. We were not many days in the merchant's yard before we were sought after the usual manner, which is this: on a signal given, as the beat of a drum, all the buyers rush in at once into the yard where the slaves are confined, and make choice of those parcels which they like best. The noise and clamor with which this is attended, and the eagerness visible in the countenances of the buyers, does not serve a little to increase the apprehensions of those terrified Africans, who may be supposed to consider themselves the ministers of that destruction to which they think themselves devoted. In this manner, without scruple, our friends and relations separated, perhaps never to see each other again. I remember the vessel I was brought over, in the men's apartment, several brothers who in a cell were sold in different lots. And it was very moving to see and hear the many cries at parting. Oh, you nominal Christians, might a terrified African ask you, learn you this from your God, who said unto you, do unto all men as you and men should do unto you? Is it not enough that we are torn from our country and friends to toil for their luxury and lust to gain? Why must husbands lose their wives, brothers their sisters, parents their children? Surely this is a new refinement in cruelty, by which, although it has no advantage to atone for it, does aggravates distress, and adds fresh horrors even to the wretchedness of slavery. Published in 1789, Equiano's autobiography went through 11 printings shortly thereafter, making him the wealthiest and most famous African in the world. His notoriety was short-lived. He died in 1796, a few months after his wife passed, leaving a daughter who eventually inherited his fortune. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for having me here today. I want to especially thank Dr. Shields, Dr. Shelton, and Dr. McPartland. And If y'all have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for a few minutes.
Are there any questions?
Yes. Can you raise your voice, please?
I gotta catch the last sentence before you get it.
He left his inheritance to his daughter. Basically, that's about it.
Yeah, some might want to know the connection between Wilberforce and Equiano.
Well, around the late 1780s, there was a groundswell support for the abolition movement for of the slave trade. It had begun before the American Revolution with writings by a gentleman named the Reverend James Ramsey, who was an acquaintance of Equiano. Equiano had met him in St. Kitts, he was in the West Indies, where he was enslaved. And so he wrote this controversial treatise against the slave trade. This is shortly before the American Revolution. But then the American Revolution happened, and so for the period of the American Revolutionary War, there was a slight, distance between the debate about the slave trade. So abolition of the slave trade sort of took a back seat towards, fighting the Yankees in the colonies. But when the Revolutionary War ended, there was this kind of groundswell for the abolition of the slave trade. For example, there was a petition signed by 10,000 citizens of Manchester for the abolition of the slave trade. And so, around 1787, King George III set up a special investigation done by the Privy Council. You think of it as kind of like committees we have today in the States, the Finance Committee, the Armed Forces Committee, and the Congress. And so there was an investigation done by one Lord Hawkesbury. And so he was accepting all kinds of testimony from different people, different walks of life. Equiano was not allowed to participate in that. No one of color was allowed to participate in terms of giving testimony before Parliament. But he was present for nearly all of the debates going on in Parliament. Equiano and Wilberforce was one of the people who was involved in speaking out against the slave trade. That's all I have.
Other questions? Anyone else have a question?
Please, ask. Don't feel free to ask. And it could be anything banal like, why is he wearing a wig or... Yes?
How is it someone who became so prominent in such unlikely conditions has been all but forgotten in history?
That's a good question.
By the general public?
Yes.
No, please.
I think, it's the time period. And I think because this is America, we don't really think about, history beyond our own borders. We got the American Revolution, we have the Civil War, but we don't think about, the abolition of the slave trade and slavery in terms of a context outside of America. So we hear someone who was black, but who wasn't American, talk out against the slave trade is kind of peculiar to us. And so I think it's just really just a lack of general knowledge amongst the American people in general. Sir?
What age did he come over to?
They say that he says he was 10 years old, although it's been disputed because he was baptized in England in 1759. And according to the baptismal records, he was 12 years old. So if you do the math, he was probably born a little bit later than 1755. So he might have been younger when he was taken into slavery.
The latest research shows that he was maybe around 8, but in his community. They didn't